All right, fine. Good to go?
Yeah.
All right, well, hello, everybody. This may be episode 224. Is it 224 is the next episode? Good Lord.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, episode 224. Or it's episode 223.5. Who knows? We don't really have an agenda. And I know, like, we've done loads of episodes where we've not had agendas before. But this one's pretty loosey-goosey. So, yeah, we're just going to go with it. See what we do. How you doing, Phil? You all right? How's life? You good?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, life is ticking along, as
Isn't it
always.
ever the tedious, ongoing, existence that it is, I suppose.
The inevitable demise.
One day soon, buddy. One day soon. But not this day. On this day, we'll go on existing. I've got a busy couple of days ahead of me. Nothing to do with Warhammer. I've got my brother's wedding to attend tomorrow and then Friday. So that's going to be fun, dealing with all that stuff. And then I've got my grand's funeral on Monday. So I'm just a busy boy. Over the weekend, I don't really know what I'm going to do to bridge the gap, but we'll see. I might, to be fair, build some Drakari Scourges on the basis that I need to build 10 Drakari Scourges for my team's tournament army that I'm working on for a team's tournament at Warhammer World in December. So I probably need to get those done, to be fair.
That's quite exciting. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, actually, can I just have a little grumble on the part of the Scourges? Right, so the Scourges are a really weird kit because they're one of the weird ones that have options that exceed what you buy in the box. So basically, you can have the option of taking 4 Dark Lances on this unit, but the box contains 1 Dark Lance. How is it that GW have such ridiculous inconsistency when it concerns unit loadouts? Like, why is it that Scourges, for no reason whatsoever, get to maintain the ability to take 4 really good weapons of a particular type, whereas, I don't know, something else only gets to take 1 as per what is in the box? It's a confusing kerfuffle.
That's odd. I wonder if it's in that special place where it's so iconic for Drakari players that is obviously what they would take, that they know people will kick up a fuss if they took it away, even though it feels like it makes sense that they should have that as an option. And it's like the Blood Bowl dilemma all over again. It's Do you want what's in the box? Do you really want just what's in the box, or do you want to be forced to either kit bash or convert stuff up? Which for a lot of people is fantastic. For other people, it's something they absolutely hate. But with Blood Bowl, it's all or nothing pretty much. That they basically landed on the side of you get what's just in the box. Whereas with this, as you say, it's the inconsistency which feels a bit unfair. Especially, I think it was like Chaos Space Marines had a bunch of stuff that got taken away, or Death Guard that got relegated to, no, you can just have what's in the box now. Potentially, it's the special privilege of being an Elder force, because Games Workshop loves the Eldari, and I think Drakari falls into that category as well.
Yeah, they are one of the elfy elves, although it's not universally true, though, right? Because they did... Well, to be fair, in the case of the Harlequins, they just went, they're all just Harlequin weapons. Call it a day. Like, they didn't even bother.
Yeah.
Trying to...
They feel like the exception that proves the rule that everyone loves Elder at Games Workshop except for Harlequins.
Yeah.
And they're just sort of, and Yunari probably to a lesser extent. So they're sort of just completely ignored.
Yeah. That's it, I suppose. Harlequins are the ginger-haired stepchild, I suppose, now of the Eldari range. Although, to be fair, Yunari are pretty unloved. Cool kit, though. I mean, again, one of those great examples of obviously old Jez at his best, really. I think, Scourges definitely stack up. And surprisingly good value by the standards of GW. I actually bought these in a Games Workshop store because they're quite hard to come by at the moment on the internet because they're quite good, obviously. So people buy them because they're good. How much do you reckon 5 Scourges are in modern GW money?
A normal GW price would be about £32, but perhaps these are a rarity and they are in that lovely £28 range.
£25? Wow. 25, and that's after the price hikes. So
that is a positive bargain.
Well, there you go. I don't know necessarily if I call it a bargain, but it's by the insane standards of current day GW pricing.
£25 feels quintessentially 2014 prices, which were, glory days for 5 or 10 models, depending on what you had. And
absolutely, mate.
Now everything is getting a bit too close towards the 50 mark pretty quickly, which is a bit frustrating. But I did play against some of the Scourges on the weekend at Warhammer World. They completely destroyed 2 of Richard's drop sentinels that he had because they dropped down into our deployment zone to shoot up, and I think they shot up both of them and killed them in one turn. And then basically I sent my jet bikes to duff them up afterwards, if I recall correctly.
There we are.
But yeah, they seem pretty good.
Well, there we are. No, good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Sorry, I just need to just hold for a moment. Hang on.
Elevator music.
Sorry about that, everybody. I just had to read a rubbish email that derailed me for a moment there. So there we go. But we're back now. I've dealt with that drama. What were you talking about, Phil? You were playing a game or something? Tell me. I forget.
We were talking about the Scourges.
Oh, yes, the Scourges and their weird inconsistency. And then we went on to Harlequins. Oh, yeah, that was it. You played against them and they killed everything. That was the vibe, right?
Yeah, mostly. I did kill the Scourges, but they do a lot of shooting, basically. They're good.
It's an interesting choice. Were they the heavy weapon Scourges or the shard carbine Scourges?
I'm pretty sure, because they had the big long weapon, it was all Dark Lancers. Oh, fine. Basically.
It's an interesting pick to deep strike those, though, because they're very... Unless they rapid ingressed on you. Did they rapid ingress or did they...
No, they just dropped down. But I think it was... They held them back for secondaries. They had... I think... Yeah, that was it. We were doing Defend Stronghold.
Oh, yeah.
We had 1 Sentinel on there already. And I was like, Richie, they've got the Scourges still, so let's stick another Sentinel on there, because trying to kill 2 probably won't happen, right?
Oh yeah, probably not.
But if I recall, they did just shoot them both. So we didn't get our Defend Stronghold, but then it took them a turn to try and get on the objective, because they obviously couldn't then charge onto it.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I think that's the thing, because I struggle with the concept of deep striking the Scourges, only from the perspective that one of their really awesome rules is the fact that they get to shoot and move, but they can't shoot and move if they deep struck.
Yes, so, yeah, that's true.
Although the shard carbine variant come in within or just outside of 6 inches, and they make sense from a deep striking perspective, I think. But but no, when you're moving 14 and you've got access to the heat lances that give you the ability to advance and shoot with no penalty because they're assault weapons, I'm kind of like, just do that. That's probably a better shout. Just run 14 plus D6.
True. I mean, yeah, they did have enough stuff on the table as it was, so maybe they didn't feel the need.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, Scourges are fun. Otherwise, what else am I dealing with at the moment? That's about it, really. That's about the extent of it. I've just got to get a load of Drakari made in time for this Teams event, which is in December, so it's a month away, so I've got plenty of time. I managed to get my hands on a box of mandrakes, so then I'll be able to take the new Mandrake sculpts with the right size bases, although I probably will still use the current ones that I have in addition to. I've probably just got to get some of those base boosters or whatever they are, because people get very sensitive, don't they, Phil, about base sizes now in Warhamsters.
I mean, I don't know why, but they should. It's like, newsflash, everyone. The designers of the miniatures decide the base sizes, not the game's designers. And I really don't think they really balance anything based on a base size. That is what it is.
No, but
everyone gets really antsy about it.
They do for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. And they're very inconsistent.
I feel like it's people self-censor themselves around base sizes, thinking other people will have a problem with it. But I genuinely haven't ever come across someone that's had an issue with a base size. It feels like they're the boogeymen, they're the, win at all cost players that don't, I mean, those do exist to an extent, but it's like they don't exist in the numbers that people perceive them to be at tournaments. But, you also don't want to be the guy that's going to be accused of cheating for having the wrong base size. Although invariably, for the most part, it feels like if you've got a smaller base size, you're at a bit of a disadvantage unless you're trying to deep strike them or squash them all in to a small space.
There is, am I correct in asserting that there is a 28mm base?
Yes, I believe that's for like Sisters of Battle.
And a 28.5mm base.
Oh, I mean, that sounds like a Games Workshop thing. I'm not aware of that, but here's the thing. If you physically measure the bases, they are wildly inconsistent.
Oh, really?
They say here's the thing. You measure a 40mm base, it's not 40mm. It's like... Hold on, I've got one here.
You got one there. You're ready to go.
I could get my caliper out, but I won't. I'll just use a trusty.
I demand you get your caliper out. The very fact that you own a caliper is reason enough for you to.
So
use it.
this 40mm base is 39mm.
Oh my god!
I've got a Necromunda one, which is a bit different, but still official nonetheless. And that is, again, it's not 40, it's 39.
Yeah, fine. So the 40mm base is actually 39mm.
And then I've got a 30mm base, and that's... Oh, no, it's 32, which is correct. So that is bang on.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Hold on. I've got some mini ones. They are 25mm.
Blimey.
And they seem pretty spot on. So, yeah, there are some that are just not what they say they are.
I swear they were like... I'm trying to remember the warband now. I think it was like a Warcry one, if I'm not mistaken, where they have that level of, like, absurdity, where there's, like, some of them on 28s, some of them on 25s, some of them on, like, 28.5s.
Well, I can tell you something. There are Nighthaunt models that come on oval bases, the cavalry ones, like the I'm just trying to think what they're called. They're like the sort of the sergeant ones that are riding around with the two. Is it Dreadblade arrows? No, not Dreadblade arrows. It's two guys riding around on their own, and their bases are like sculpted, so they've got detail on them. And you would assume they would be the same size bases as the cavalry hex wraiths, because they're basically the same sort of size model. And it's like, no, they are different size bases. And if I recall correctly, it's like from the length is the same and like the width is ever so slightly different. It's something really odd like that, where it's like you've made a custom base size specifically for this. And that's completely puzzling. So when I was trying to like kit bash one, and I didn't want the sculpted base, I basically had to like take one and file it down smooth so I could put my own basing detail on there. Because if I couldn't just use a regular base, because that would be the technically wrong size, even though I've just been saying no one would care or notice. And I think some of the endless spells are like that, where they've got these odd size bases that literally don't exist outside of them.
So it seems like literally the 28.5mm base is like basically, the exclusive territory of the elves. So like elves come on 28.5mm bases. But I think...
Why?
Yeah. But then Sororitas, and I'm just looking at Repentia, they're pretty standard. Yeah, they come on... Oh, they also come on 28.5. But there are 28mm bases out there. Maybe it's like an AOS 6. I don't know. It's very
unless they're called 28, but technically they're 28.5.
Indeed. Madness, anyway. There you go. The mad old world of bases. But anyway, point is I need to put some mandrakes onto... God, what are mandrakes now actually supposed to be? I don't even look. I just assumed they'd be 28.5. Maybe they're 28s. Oh, God, imagine what a world we'd live in.
28 sounds like something they might be.
No, they're on 28.5s. The new mandrakes are on 28.5s. My old ones, the old resiny kits, are on 25s because, they're old timey-wimey ones.
I mean, it's literally barely noticeable.
Well, I think the thing is, though, if I have the two types in the army, it'll be quite noticeable, wouldn't it?
True. Are you just going to slice the bottom of the feet off the base? And
no, I'll just buy one of those wraparounds.
They just look ugly.
They do, but it's the quickest and easiest solution. If I get time, I'll do it properly, but I won't get time. Even though I have time, I won't use it, and we'll just have to make do. That's how it goes.
Yeah, that sounds very UK.
Well, exactly. But that's the thing, like the new mandrakes, though. I mean, I can only assume the new mandrakes are quite the bit bigger than the old mandrakes. I'll find out soon enough once I've built them, etc., etc. I'll be able to look at the point of comparison and be like, "Oh, crikey, blimey, quite the difference." But we shall see. But those new mandrake models do look very sexy, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they do.
They're hard to get hold of, although I managed to come across some a place called Entoyment. I managed to find one box of them there, so yay me. I've managed to buy Scourges, which are hard to come by, and or Mandrakes, which are also hard to come by. I'm doing well, Phil, at least in that regard.
That's fair.
Indeed.
That's fair.
Indeed. So yes, working on Drakari stuff. It's all good fun. GW have reveals. Is it this week or next week?
I thought it's a Friday. Hold on.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it?
I assumed it was
Warhammer World Championships.
I mean, maybe
World Championships of Warhammer. Yeah, Friday the 7th of November, mate. So not this.
Oh, so it's not this. Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping it would be. I would hope it would be this way.
Exactly. It would have been easy filler content if nothing else.
Well, I like a good reveal show. We've not had one in a while, and we've had an awful lot of reveals that probably would have been at a reveal show, like the Ultramarine stuff, the Terminators, the Marauders for Old World. That just dropped on a regular Monday or something. So
yeah.
It's it feels like, well, who knows what we'll see next, but it'd be quite exciting, I'm sure.
Well, there were leaks, weren't there, about something that was doing the rounds today. 500 worlds or something they're calling it. Lord knows if that's actually a real thing, but there was a...
Oh, is this for the end campaign type thing?
That's what they're saying, yeah. It's like the end times the 40k 10th edition No Mores series. But, I guess we'll wait till Friday. I mean, is there anything you particularly want to see, I suppose, Phil? We could just... Seeing as now, actually, we understand that it's a week and a couple days away, we can wildly speculate on what's going on.
True. I mean, it's a bit hard to do this without being biased of hearing what people have said might be either revealed or what is due to come out.
All we're interested in, Phil, is what you want. What you and I want. We don't care about what people think actually might happen.
Well,
so if we go down the game systems, right? So if we basically we'll start with a big one, Warhammer 40,000. What do you want them to reveal for Warhammer 40,000? Or what do you want? What do you want them to come along and say? Hey, 40k people, get a load of this.
Well, I guess what I would actually like to see is what we just said: the end narrative. What is it? What's it going to be? What's the structure of it? Is it a sort of linked story? Is it standalone stuff? Are they going to bequeath us with loads of new rules to go out with a bang? Is it going to be more boarding action style stuff to tie in with the kill team? Will we get a new faction, a bit like how we got World Eaters at the end of 9th edition? If so, I don't think they'd be revealing that now. That feels like a sort of Christmas time, New Year type reveal if it was. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did some nice stuff like Kill Team.
Yeah, Kill Team be an interesting... Well, obviously we've seen before with the original leaks, right, with like the Nightbringer and all of that stuff, that there's an emphasis on Kill Team, so makes sense that they probably lean into that stuff. I'd love to see him, I suppose, in the interim. Like, it'd be quite nice if actually between now and the new edition of Warhammer 40,000, if maybe we got an emphasis on like combat patrol style gameplay, where they actually maybe give us an upfront kind of experience of maybe what they're trying to do with 11th by releasing the new combat patrol mode of gameplay earlier. You know, kind of like what they did with the Into the Dark, Gallo Breach. What was that stuff called? Boarding actions.
Gallo Dark. Yeah, Into the Dark. Yeah, boarding actions.
Yeah. So like with boarding actions, but just be like, look, we know none of you play combat patrol. It's not very good. But we noticed that people quite like Spearhead, and we took some learnings, and here you go. Here's combat patrol, but hopefully it's good now. Enjoy. Like, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Having an alternative mode of play would be, and that was the genuinely exciting thing about boarding actions. So having more stuff for boarding actions would be great, whether that's more detachments or different ways of playing it, or maybe it's just thematic missions tying it into the current Necron Kill Team Tomb World stuff. That would also be cool, because obviously that hasn't come out yet, but could. But as you say, combat patrol. Would they be so bold as to radically change it to basically be whatever 11th Ed is? I mean, I couldn't see them doing that, but that would be nice. That'd be interesting. If anything, it just feels like it would be a streamlined version of 40k, right? With some learnings from Spearhead probably thrown in. And I could see that probably doing quite well. To me, the problem I have with both Spearhead and Combat Patrol is it's just restricted to the boxes. And unless you just so happen to have bought one of those boxes, which is obviously what they want you to do. But if you haven't done that because you've got a pre-existing collection that also doesn't happen to just match up with the contents of that box, you're a bit stuffed. So, you know, having a slightly more flexible way to create a combat patrol would be fun. And that's sort of the thing I liked about older editions of Kill Team, or it wasn't called combat patrol, but like, you know, those kind of skirmish sort of style games where it's like, yeah, just bring whatever you want. Here's some lists and you can create some bits, and it's maybe not as restricted as just you have to have bought a box, which is a bit frustrating.
Yeah, the old like 40k and 40 minutes sort of systems where there's restrictions, but ultimately, yeah, gameplay was possible. I
have a...
Sorry.
Oh, go on.
No, I don't massively hate the one box solution for that style of gameplay, because I do think if you look at it as kind of like a gateway game system, I think it fulfills that brief very well. And to your point, though, in terms of like, by the random event that you don't happen to have the right miniatures for Age of Sigmar, most people's Age of Sigmar spearheads contain the core of their army, right? Like most people who have a collection will have most. Except you, I know you're...
I have 2,000 points of Nighthorn, and I do not fulfill the requirements for either of the spearheads.
However, Phil, I'll counter with this statement. Do you not own all the miniatures required?
I don't think I do.
Oh, okay.
I think there's or I own them, but they're not built.
That is what I mean by that. Yes, absolutely.
I think there's
because that's not the fault of them, really, is it? Or the
actually, do you know? No, one of them features Harridans, which I don't have any of. And then I think one of them maybe has a Spirit Torment, and is it like chain gas? Yeah, plus another little unit of 2. Basically,
the chain gasps, yeah.
I'm not sure I actually have them, but I think I've got the Spirit Torment because I think I got bits from the 2nd edition box, which had some of them but not all of them, something like that. So yeah, I am obviously a weird outlier because I just collected lots of cavalry for my Nighthaunt and the Glaive Stalkers that are now off to Legends soon enough.
Yeah, but you can rep them with something else, I'm sure.
Well, exactly. I think that is the plan, but ironically, that means probably building more of them because the units come in 4s and 8s, and everything else comes in units of 10.
Yeah, sprinkle them into some existing units that you have, and
maybe that's the way. But speaking of something in AOS that I'd like to see in 40k, the Scourge of Gyran concept of giving us alternative data sheets to breathe life into units that are either not being taken or just underperforming would be a fun way to go out with 40k's 10th edition. So, maybe the humble Space Marine Intercessor is a bit boring and no one takes it. So maybe they do like a, special, I don't know, campaign variant. Maybe it's, the tyrannic war veterans of Space Marines that are intercessors, and there's a new data sheet that you can add in, basically, and they've got slightly different rules. Something like that could be a fun addition to 40k to breathe life into maybe some underutilized units.
That'd be quite cool. I think the thing is, where we're at with the edition and where we're at in the sort of cycle, I guess you have to kind of weigh up whether or not it would be a good thing to do that when you're looking, down the barrel of a 6-month cycle until we're next getting a whole new set of rules, data sheets, etc. I mean, again, my assertion is that 40k will not be indexing itself this edition or this upcoming 11th edition. It seems like that would be a mistake. But it's hard to know for certain, obviously. I mean, none of us obviously do. So yeah, who can say? But I think something like that would be really good to see in Warhammer 40,000. I think it's done wonders for Age of Sigmar. And I think it's something that actually would really make sense. But yeah, they need to be very specific in their language around it to make sure that no one felt particularly upset or betrayed once those units are no longer usable.
Well, with the Scourge of Gyran, they said it's for this season. Yes. It is for a year. So if they said, here's some new units, they're just until the end of the edition, so less than a year. Knock yourself out. And so in my mind, that is actually a great way of playtesting. It's basically like the early access betas, right? It's a way of playtesting some rules before you commit it to paper and print.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved for them to have done that with the Nighthaunt coach, but instead what we got was... Because if you think about it, it's an acknowledgement that the Nighthaunt coach wasn't very good, that they gave you some great new rules that everyone loved and, arguably maybe too good. But then the Battle Tome comes out a few months later, and what do you get? You get the exact same old one that we had in the index that hasn't been changed whatsoever. So either the Scourge of Gyran stuff came out not in time for there to be any feedback to update the Battle Tome, but in a way they did it knowing that the old one wasn't very good. So it's like, at what point did you realise that coach was rubbish, but then still decide to not change it for the Battle Tome?
Well, I think the reason I don't think they've drastically changed it for the Battle Tome is I think they kind of came up with a concept for it and did it that way. And that thing will have obviously been done a particular kind of way before, timey-wimey stuff. But yeah, I'm not... Yeah, it would be very strange if they went, oh, here's the Scourge of Garan war scroll for the Black Coach, and then, by the way, we've just done it the exact same in the book, as it turns out, because then what would the point of be? And I think the designers, when they build those units for Scourge of Garan, were approaching it that way for a specific series of reasons that felt appropriate for the General's Handbook that we're working with this time around.
I agree, but if they get committed to print for the next edition of AOS, potentially, let's assume that doesn't get indexed either, but a new battle tomes come out and they go, actually, the variant version from Scourge of Garan was way more popular, so let's replace it with the actual one. It becomes the new default. That would be something quite cool to see. But yeah, time-wise, it doesn't really work for the Nighthaunt stuff, but just puzzling that they didn't seem to buff it in any way whatsoever, and arguably got worse based on losing some attacks and stuff like that. I suspect what happens, to give them some credit, they were like, but it's really popular and people are taking the Black Coach, basically because of the one detachment that allowed you to give out a ward save to everything within an aura distance of the Black Coach. That's why it was popular prior to that. But then the Battle Tome came out and they got rid of that detachment, making that Black Coach pretty much redundant.
Well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's never perfect, I guess. There's always room for improvement, but I think ultimately the concept of the Scourge of Garan adding in new war scrolls is really cool, or data sheets would make sense in the 40k space. I find that, like, the way obviously they do it in 40k is they kind of do it, but they don't directly like call it out as like a specific update for a specific period. They just sort of go, oh yeah, we've just decided we're just going to change the rules for the Lion. We're going to add this to this unit. We're going to change this. You know what I mean? They just sort of come along and go, well, whatever, we're just changing it. And that's it. So it's not so much, here's a new data sheet. It's just we've tweaked stuff. Enjoy is kind of the way they do it. So it's a similar philosophy, just handled slightly differently. But yeah, that'd be cool to see. I think the other thing I'd love to see in the realm of like 40k as well, or at least in terms of the announcements coming up from this thing, is obviously going into Christmas. What kind of Christmas calendar activity are we going to get? The last Christmas we got the Grotmas sequence.
Detachments.
Yeah, and I think obviously they're going to make a big song and dance about the Grotmas stuff. They'll be dressing their stores soon with all the new Christmas apparel or Grotmas apparel and all the rest of it. Once we get out the other side of Halloween, I'm sure they're all going to start looking all very red gobbo very, very soon. I mean, they've already got a multitude of gifting items in Warhammer World and in Warhammer stores now already, so that's already going on. So yeah, getting a new cool Grotmas video will be cool, but then also understanding what they're going to do to try and support the Grotmas period and how they're going to attack that. Because obviously the last couple of times they've really focused on rules. They've really gone into like, oh, here's new formations or formation. That's how they've kind of done it. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this time around. I imagine they might do the same, although maybe, Phil, to your point, maybe that's how they do it. Maybe this time around for 40k, you're going to get a month's worth of Grotmas data sheets or something, maybe. There you go.
Well, maybe. I mean, they could, again, do the AOS thing and do, like, Regiments of Renowned, right? So here's a couple of data sheets that you can just, from another army, that you can plug into your army. basically bring back allies for 40k, because we haven't had that. The closest we get is things like, obviously, Harlequins are in the Eldari book. There's demons available in some of the Chaos Space Marine books via a specific detachment. But maybe they go, okay, cool, here's a unit of Space Marines that aren't Deathwatch that can just join any other Imperium army. It's like some sort of fun narrative thing tied into whatever story might be going on.
Yeah, it'd be very cool to see. But yeah, I think that's it in the 40k space, right? I mean, we've obviously already had stuff leak around things like the Nightbringer. I mean, obviously, if there's a Deceiver waiting in the wings, which is one of the other popular Catan shards, that would be cool.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, here's the Nightbringer. Little did you know, it's also a dual kit that can also build the Deceiver. Ooh, that would be sexy. I doubt that, but it'd be cool if it could. But we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think that's it on the 40k side of things. I think, we just need some kind of clarity on their upcoming End Times event. We need some cool stuff over the Christmas period, and I think just an increased emphasis on combat patrol. Those are the things that I think we want to see.
I mean, what we'll probably get is a bunch of miniature reveals for stuff coming out in January.
Yeah, probably. Which is also fine, I suppose. But then, I'd be intrigued to see.
But that could be anything, right?
My guess is they're just going to give us even more Space Marines over the span of the next little while.
Do we think we're going to get jet bikes to replace the Outriders to go alongside that Khan mini?
Possibly. It's so hard to know for sure, obviously, but I think, I genuinely think at the moment, like, GW are in this sort of situation where, like, Space Marines are so successful and so popular that they just feel compelled to produce and release them at a rate that is just, greater than anything else. I think, the problem is that they find themselves in is that as a very, tradable business on the stock exchange with a certain level of value, they need to maintain and deliver certain kind of sales results. And it seems like Space Marines are good at getting that done. I know a lot of people who have pre-ordered Crux Terminatus. I know a lot of people who are looking at all the Ultramarine stuff. I mean, by the way, the Ultramarine stuff as well, like, I'm still confused and finding it odd. Like, have they clarified what they're doing with that in the sense that is Calgar... I know we sort of talked about this before, but is Calgar of old going away? Or is it...
They've not said. I believe there's an article where they talk about it, and it could imply that both are staying, but we don't actually know for sure. It just talks about that they've redone his armor to, fit his new big bod as a Terminator unit. I was going to say, I was really thinking about buying that box set, and then I was too busy playing games on the weekend to order it in time, and I checked maybe around lunchtime on Saturday, and it was sold out everywhere. But then I also saw the price of it from Games Workshop, and I was like, oh dear God, that's a bit too expensive. Despite it still being a saving, but it was a hefty box set.
55 in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not cheap. 120, it would have been probably my limit. Like, I could have stretched to that.
Oh God, 120 would be a great deal for that. Is that what were the third parties doing it at that sort of price?
Well, I didn't check everywhere. I looked at Element Games, and it looked like they were selling it also at 155. So
I mean, why
I don't know if that's just because they...
I mean, it will sell, right?
Well, exactly. So I don't know if that's because they didn't get many and therefore they weren't going to do a price promotion, or they just know it will sell. So they were like, yeah, you can just buy it from here because it's saying it's going to go.
Yeah. People are going to go crazy.
I mean,
people have gone crazy for that.
Yeah, for sure. I suspect what we could see as well for reveals will be more chapter-specific stuff like that for, all the other Space Marine chapters, like the main ones. So new upgrade kits, new units, specific units, and new characters. That all sounds very cool, right? And then just going on with the Terminators, it's interesting that I guess AOS and 40k are both doing this. They're both doing a lot of nostalgia ranges at the moment. So Terminators are old and they're just being redone. Pretty much all of the stuff in 4th edition and to an extent 3rd edition AOS has been like nostalgia style ranges, like sort of like Gravelords looking very quintessential vampire esque from fantasy. And a lot of factions have been in that direction as opposed to the weird and wacky, wonderful stuff of like, you know, Fire Slayers and Caldron Overlords and things like that. And just to bang on about the point you made, Space Marine Cell, it's like that's great, but then it becomes a rod for the back of Games Workshop's own creation, because then they're like, well, now we've got too many in the book and we can't balance it, so now we need to get rid of some stuff. And it's because they just have an inability to keep a range alive and support it. So yes, we'll get new Space Marine stuff, but at what cost? What will have to go? You know, the Land Raider and the Repulsor already look quite similar. What they're going to do with that? Are we going to get a brand new Land Raider at some point? Are they going to redo it to be Primarisified like the Terminators and it just be the same thing? Or are they going to go, well, actually, no, that's in the past and Grav technology is now what Space Marines will rock, and, you know, the Repulsor and Impulsor are the vehicles of choice now. Yeah. Goodbye Rhino, goodbye Land Raider. Because if you're trying to support both, it seems a bit mad, even though it's quintessentially iconic 40k, quintessentially Space Marine. Yeah, I don't know what they do in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, mate? I think that's it, isn't it? It's like, it's an interesting time because right now they're just releasing and iterating Space Marine stuff. Like, again, the Calgar stuff is interesting because they've gone, oh, here's the new Victrix box, here's a new Calgar, here's a new Sergeant, now head of the Victrix geezer. Why have I forgotten his name? Sicarius. Here's a new him. Like, happy days. But then people aren't that bothered about what they're replacing or what's coming next. It's just sort of like, gimme, which is great. Like, obviously it speaks to people's fandom. Like, I remember, like, years ago where people didn't want to touch Ultramarines with a barge pole. Like, the idea of being an Ultramarines collector sort of made your skin crawl. It was like, you know, they probably were like one of the least popular armies in Space Marines. But nowadays it seems like, you know, I mean, obviously they give them great rules. Calgar's been kind of ever present since his new mini came onto the scene.
I honestly feel like that is probably the Gilliman factor.
Yes.
The fact that they were the first Primarch gives them some cool cookie points that make people want to play with that army because you've got a whole Primarch to play with. Yeah. That is invariably a law for people to want to play that faction. It's sort of mad thinking about it. You know, we haven't got Trannic war veterans that I mentioned earlier that are a quintessential Ultramarines specific unit in an edition where they banged on about the Trannic War.
Yeah. Well,
it feels like a completely missed opportunity. It's like, come on, guys, just think about it a little bit.
I mean, would it be crazy? Because, I mean, obviously I've heard people rumouring that they're going to do even more Ultramarine releases, but would it be crazy if they did? I mean, I feel like, I don't know, if they come along and they go, oh, here's Tyrannic War Veterans, here's the new Gilliman sculpt, as some people are saying is going to happen. It just feels a bit much at this stage. But I don't know. I love the idea of Tyrannic War Veterans, although they'd have to look... Because I know everyone takes the lieutenant with combi weapon in Space Marines because he's a really, really good rule set. But the mini's not terrible, but it's just not great. Like, the way that they've just kind of stuck bits of Tyrannid to him, it looks a bit janky, and I'd be intrigued to see how they handle that with the other kind of like, you know, if they did another range of Tyrannid veterans. Because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong about this, hang on, I'm just going to look at Ultra.
It feels like he needs a unit to go with, right, to lead other than just the generic Space Marines.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm just looking at the old scopes for the Tyrannid Hunters. And the old Ultramarine Tyranid Hunters didn't really have very much, or like the Tyrannic veterans. They had maybe a few little tokens, a few little trophies, I suppose, like maybe a razor blade or whatever. But most of the vibe of the Tyranid veterans is that they're all just covered in bionics because they're all just messed up. Like, that's the idea of it.
They've lost a lot of
yeah. So they've got they're just it's basically, imagine you take an Iron Hands unit and just say, now it's Ultramarines, but they didn't lose it because they just obsessively chop their bits off because the flesh is weak. It's more that, they have their bits chopped off defending McCrag. That was the whole kind of vibe of them. Whereas the lieutenant with combi weapon, he's obviously covered in more of the kind of chitinous sort of tyrannidy bits. And I'm not sure I'm really super... I mean, because obviously as well, we've seen that with Votan, haven't we? We've seen the Votan guy covered in Tyranid bits.
Yeah. I also played against that model on the weekend. He is ridiculously good.
I mean, I feel like we got that vibe when we were reviewing the Codex, right? Like, he does seem very strong.
We had a fun hero off, basically. He charged into my champion, my blade champion. He rolled, I think it's like 8 dice. It's something ridiculous. It's either like 6 or 8 attacks. And his first attack all rolled 1s. Every single dice was a 1. We all laughed and took a photo of it. And then I think I hit him back and I killed him. But then he got back up on a 2-up. Then I think we had a few turns knocking each other around, not really doing much. Then he killed me. Then I got back up on a 2-up. Then we fought again. I couldn't kill him, and then he just stuffed me up with a good turn and killed me for good. Because he does it's like strength 12, AP -3, I think, and then flat 3 damage. He's like, he's very good. The fact he's strength 12 is like, what?
When you were referring to yourself as if, you were doing like the football team thing there, where it sounded like you were actually fighting against him.
I am.
Yes.
I am the blade champion.
Oh, you were,
yes,
okay, so you were a blade champion in this instance.
I was. He's my main hero.
He's your main squeeze.
Yes. I will pretend to be him for this story retelling.
That's it. Phil, the blade champion, fought Nid-headed Votan fella. But anyway, that's the thing I liked about the old Nid vets, was the idea that they weren't just Marines covered in bug bits. They were just Marines that clearly had a hard time. And I kind of like that more as an aesthetic. Like, I'd love to see that if they lean into that idea, the idea of, here's a bunch of Marines that are all messed up. Yay. Yeah. That's cool. A vibe.
There is one other Ultramarine hero I would like to see come back.
Oh yeah, who's that?
You think who it might be? The guy in the vehicle.
Oh, Sergeant Kronos.
Yeah, bring back tank commanders like Pask. Where's he? He's not really a thing anymore. Bring them back, everyone. Cool little models you can stick on top of vehicles that makes the vehicle better. Great idea.
Yeah, Kronos was fun, to be fair. Kronos was a lot of fun. There were always interesting ways that you could utilise him. I'd love to see him bring back rules for the... what was the name of that Ultramarine tank that had, 9 las cannons on it? Or 8 las cannons?
Oh, I think I know the one you mean. I can't remember its name though, but yeah.
Land Raider, las cannons. Here it is. Yes, the Land Raider Terminus Ultra. That was what it was called.
No.
Bring that back. Give me back my Terminus Ultra. That's what I want.
All the las cannons. Yeah.
All the las cannons. But
stuff like that would be really interesting. Also, more characters in Dreadnoughts for Spokesmarines. That's an easy win.
Yeah, that would have been the cool thing. Had Pat Butcher, Calgar, come back as a Dreadnought.
Ended up in a I think that would be great. I think I think we need a chapter master in a Dreadnought. We had it obviously. with the
Red Scorpions.
Red Scorpions, yeah, thank you. So yeah, we need it to come for one of the sort of major book, major book chapters, chapter books. Yeah. Obviously, it feels like Iron Hands would be the obvious one, but it would be better if it's not Iron Hands and is just something else.
Yeah, they'll do that, won't they? At some point, they'll realise they'll uncover some kind of temple somewhere in the fluff with a really poorly written kind of story, and it turns out that Ferris's head was put in a dreadnought somewhere, despite and then it's like, oh, there you go, Ferris Manus walks again, but as a dreadnought that they just left in a tube somewhere accidentally, and he's well angry because he's been in that tube a long old time.
I mean, I'd be angry if I was in a tube.
That would be like Vulcan in the events of Unremembered Empire, where he woke up after being resurrected after a long series of torture from Kurz. He was quite feral. I imagine that would be cool. But again, though, to your point, though, Sergeant Kronos, great candidate for a dreadnought, right?
It's still a vehicle, technically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Come on now. Give me Sergeant Kronos, the Dreadnought. That's what we need. More Dreadnought characters. To be fair as well, actually, that is one of the maddest things when you consider that in all 40k Doom, or Space Marine Doom, there have only actually really... Well, there's been technically 4 named Dreadnoughts in, like, the game, as it were, that made it into the game. There's Carib Cullen the Risen, Bjorn the Fell-Handed. There is the Minotaur guy that I forget the name of.
Yeah, I think it's it's not Moloch because that's the main guy. But yes, the Hecaton something rather.
And in early 7th edition, when they did the Black Rage box set of Death Company versus something else, I forget what was in it, there was a little pamphlet in it. And in that pamphlet, they had given the Death Company Dreadnought a name. I can't remember what that name was. Yeah. I just knew it was a named character Dreadnought. It was a unique named character Death Company Dreadnought as per the pamphlet.
So Iron Hands have never had one?
Not that I can remember. And to be fair, I've gone pretty obscure in my listings there. So yeah, if anyone listening knows of... and I mean like named Dreadnoughts that made it
in a data
sheet into the game. As far as I'm aware, there's only been the 2 Forge-World ones, that being Carib Cullen and the Minotaur one that I can't remember the name of. I was hoping Phil would, but he's
certainly not off the top of my head. And then I'll try and look at that.
And then Bjorn the Foul-Handed, obviously. And then but that seems crazy, really, when you consider how Space Marines work. You think they'd have more heroes of legend fulfilling the coming from the Dreadnought side of things.
Oh, Hecaton Achios.
Hecaton Achios, there he is. Achitos. So yeah. Anyway, there you go. Marnius Calgus should be amongst them, or at the very least,
should be.
Not Carib Cullen. Sorry.
When they did that, when they did that tease for Primaris Calgar, it felt like it was going to be a Redemptor version, which it should have been. That was
should have been. But now we got Pat Butcher.
But, and all we have really is the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and we've sort of lost the Contemptor Pattern and the Leviathan to
Leviathan.
Heresy.
We definitely have lost, but Contemptor's still holding on in there, admittedly in the Custodian.
Just about, but it doesn't feel like it. Obviously, you've got all the different variants of the Redemptor Dreadnought, but it would be almost nice to see just a different variant, potentially, but maybe for simplicity, they've gone, no, it's just big Redemptor Dreadnoughts and its spin-offs of its all different kinds, and that's all you get in terms of design-wise. Look, they're all quite similar.
Yeah. I suppose that's it, isn't it, now? Because the Ballistus is, very much a Redemptor, as is obviously the Brutalis.
Brutalis, and then obviously you've got the... what's the infiltrating one?
Well, that's not a Dreadnought. That's the... war suit, isn't it? It's like it's not.
Yeah, but it's basically it basically is though, right? It's like visually is a Redemptor, but has a man inside.
Yeah, it's again another great example though, isn't it? Where they sort of were like, oh, here's the Invictus war suit. It's a Phobos thing. It's like, oh, the stealthy part of the army. Yeah, it's going to run at you in a giant mech suit. Oh, okay, good, strong. I won't see that coming. Like,
I mean, you could say that about all
Space
Phobos Space Marines, because they're all still like, 8-foot tall giants in massive clunky armor.
But that's why the whole kind of sequence of them taking the concept of Space Marines and trying to turn them into some kind of like military force didn't make any sense really, because it's like, oh, here's the really like more tactical version of their armor so that they can be stealthy, and the rest of it, it's like they're giant mutant monsters in brick walls,
bright primary coloured armor.
Yeah. It's like.
But because I think the older idea was, it's like they don't need to be stealthy. No. They will literally just march forwards towards you. That is the scary thing. Yeah. Like, that is the intimidation factor of the Space Marines. So, yeah, it sort of undoes that sort of historic theming to them by saying, oh, yeah, we're going to sneak around for some strategic reasons. Like, no, they don't need it. They're literally walking tanks.
Yeah. This is the thing. Just give them 2 types of armor, Terminator and regular, and just have them go have you,
No.
But anyway.
Those were the days. That's,
still the days now, by all accounts. We're going to just get back to it.
No. True.
Anyway, that probably wraps up the chat about what we think might happen with 40k. Age of Sigmar, they're just going to do ranges, right? They're just going to go, here you go, everybody. Here's new Fire Slayers. Here's new Ogre tribes, here's new whatever. Like, I think on the AOS front, we're probably not going to see anything dramatically interesting out of that, other than here's a really sexy range of miniatures. I would be shocked if they gave us anything more than that at this stage for AOS, and I don't really need to, right?
I guess not, because here's the thing, you've got obviously Warhammer Quest, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I wonder if the monstrous faction that will appear in Warhammer Quest will be fleshed out as an army or inserted into a pre-existing army with additional models. So if you think about Curse City was sold like Gravelord's army, and from that there was a bunch of extra models that came along and joined the mainstay of that range, because basically it was here's a way into this faction where you can bulk buy a bunch of those minis, noting that obviously a bunch of them have since disappeared and aren't playable for that faction, much to my frustration. So that is a word of warning for anyone that thinks that might happen for this version of Warhammer Quest and its corresponding AOS army. But if it's was it Bestigors or
Pestigors?
Is it Bestigors? Pestigors with the P, not Pestigors. So if that is basically Nurgle army, potentially we will see a wider range refresh, which I think has been rumoured to an extent around the Nurgle guys. So I assume it might be something to do with that, but then maybe that's coming down later, and what we'll see in the immediate future is just, Warhammer Quest stuff.
Yeah, I'd love actually if, like, for a change of pace, if GW just were, like, genuinely kind of more measured and just went, you know what, guys, we're releasing this box set and all the miniatures in it are just for this game. They're not usable in Age of Sigmar. We're not doing any of that, because all that happened with Curse City is they went, oh, here you go, bunch of stuff that you could use in AOS, and then an edition went by and they went, oh, not really, it's gone. So just don't do it.
It's feel bad. Either support it or don't. Yeah. And I think, we've said this like a billion times by now. It's like, here's the thing. They will probably know that it will sell nowhere near as much unless they can say, yeah, some of this stuff can potentially go into your army because, that's what happens with Kill Team or, Warcry or whatever. I feel like with at least Underworlds, they're a bit better now by basically saying, Because the new Warcry models are out. They've got a little Hellsmiths of Hashut warband. Is that in the new Hellsmiths of Hashut battle tome? No. Have they given you rules for it whatsoever, to even Legends in AOS? No. They've just gone, it's its own thing, and if you want to buy it to just swap out as a few models or as alternative sculpts, you can do so. And in a way, I would probably respect them more for doing that because, it's less money grabbing. If you play AOS and you would like some of those models, then, that's on you. You can add it to your army as alternative sculpts. I think that is, in a way, the best of both worlds, where people can add them to their armies, but you're not bloating an army range with some of these weird, unique sculpts that, they're not going to support. All Games Workshop would really have to do, though, is just not put them on jumbo sprues with a bunch of other models and actually go, here's a bunch of, villains, let's say, for Warhammer Quest and all the Pestigores. They're going to go on one sprue. So later on, they can be sold on their own as their own thing. And all the, another version of, Nurgly thing, that's on another sprue. Rather than going, it's all on one sprue, everyone, and it will cost you £80. If they do even bother to sell it at all separately.
Because when they did Blackstone Fortress for 40k, there was a time where, because Blackstone Fortress shipped with an additional codex that had rules for all of its units for use in 40k, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
So you could get the spider
spindle
drones. Spindle drones. And
the worms, your favourite?
The worms were good, but the worms had, anyway, they had practical applications in 8th edition that was quite useful in terms of gameplay for, try-hard gamey things. But, the worms were decent. Even then, like, the little... I'm trying to remember what they called rattling team and things like that. They were fun little units that you could go, chuck that into an army.
Somebody in Remus, I think it was.
Yeah. It was cool, man. It was like a fun little release. But the thing is much like with that, no one's using any of that stuff now, right? It's sort of like it basically. I feel like just learn from what you've done in the past and just not do it any other way. Although that being said, obviously the Traitor Guardsmen were a well, at least the Traitor Guardsmen started out as Blackstone Fortress.
They were quite cool. Then I think a later kill team, which is like the Blooded, came along, sort of visually looking similar, but obviously not the same sprue.
Yes.
The Chaos Lord was great. He was cool, and obviously you could just use him as a Chaos Lord, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you got into a weird state.
One of the Chaos Lord. Well, until they just recently did the multi-part plastic for him.
Oh, because I think he was on his own sprue, wasn't he?
He was,
as were some of the other heroes. Some of them were really cool. I think the problem is they did a Rogue Trader in that one, and then they did another Rogue Trader in Kill Team, which was the lady with the cane, and she was really cool.
Yes.
But they had different loadouts. So there was a while where... and then I feel like there was a third Rogue Trader from somewhere else. Oh, it was the... what was it called? It was like the battle box where it was the 4 characters fighting off each other in a mini gladiatorial combat, which was only available in like America and Germany, if I recall. So they did that one there, and they sort of supported all 3 at one point in a very complex data sheet. I think we remember going through in 9th edition, and now they've just gone, it's none of them, or it's just the one that you can still get now.
Yeah. But I mean, that's it on the AOS front. We'll just see some new minis for some new for armies that need updates. They've already teased a multitude of elements. So the Ozark Bone Reapers, the Ogre, more tribes. A lot of people assume that we're going to see quite a healthy update for the Ogres, which will be great because they need it.
It's quite an old range.
Yeah, Ozark Bone Reapers will get the standard foot hero because that's what the relatively low key releases get. That's what Flesh Eater Courts and Nighthawk got. So I expect the same for Ozark Bone Reapers. And then maybe eventually we'll see what comes down the pipeline for like Fire Slayers, which are rumored to potentially get quite a reasonable refresh as well. So one of those will probably come through. My guess is, based on what's been teased thus far, is we'll probably see something for basically AOS, heavy emphasis on Warhammer Quest, and then obviously probably a bit of Ogre tribes for good measure, and then an announcement concerning what Age of Sigmar is going to tokenistically get at Christmas. Hopefully a better showing on AOS support over Christmas that was done last year, because last year's Regiment of Renown release was very tokenistic. But, it was only 6 months into the new edition back then, so maybe now that we're approaching the halfway point, they'll get something a bit more substantial, much like how 40k did last year. But we'll see, won't we?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they were like... Because obviously with Schedule Grand, they were like, here's a bunch of extra army-specific rules, like detachment styles with some enhancements and things like that. So if they were like, yeah, here's some more of those, just to give more theming to an army if you want to do a particular playstyle that isn't currently being represented, that'd be quite cool, because that is just rules. It's not models or anything like that.
Horus Heresy, I'm guessing they'll just go, here you go everybody, here's some breaches at last, here's some stuff we told you we were going to do. A lot of people...
Plastic Custodies, I would assume we'll see now.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
That book is due soonish, I think. Maybe next year still, but I think, they teased a Plastic Custodies a while back, so I suspect we get Custodies and Sisters release upon us at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised if we also see that for Legions Imperialis, because they're the, I think, only faction left that we haven't seen, because obviously we got Admech and... Did they do Admech? They definitely did Dark Mech. Yeah, they must have done some Admech as well.
Yeah.
And Dark Mechanicum.
It's funny, though, when you look at the...
Dark Mechanicum for Heresy should be a thing at some point as well.
When you look at the Warcom articles for Heresy, you do sort of get the appreciation for the relative slowness of its... releases since its initial launch.
Yeah, no, that's true. In a way, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't either. I'm not suggesting it's awful.
It takes a lot, because obviously the army's much bigger. I feel like there's a much slower pace in which people are building and creating their armies. But
exactly.
Maybe that's not true. But also, it's like it's a smaller studio managing... Technically, it feels like more game systems than the mainline studio. Mainline studio has Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Underworlds, and if we're being charitable, Warcry. Which is 5, right? Whereas the Specialist Games is doing, or maybe I'm going to be wrong here, is doing Heresy, Old World, Legions Imperialis, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, which is also 5. Is there something I've missed?
No, well, Lord of the Rings is in there somewhere. Middle-earth is in there somewhere.
They're also technically doing that as well, so that's...
Was that Specialist Games, or is that mainline? I don't know.
I think that's Specialist Games, because, it is literally a Specialist game.
No, fine, I didn't know. Well, because in the past it was one of their, like...
You are right. Yeah, I sort of see what you mean.
Yeah.
Adeptus Titanicus is technically it's got a tab, even though it's really Legions Imperialis now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, if it is a specialist game, which I would assert it is, even though some of it has gone to plastic, then yeah, they're doing more game systems, which is obviously them being spread a bit thinner.
Yeah.
And I also just think I imagine it's a much smaller studio as well.
No, agreed. I mean, talking about Old World, obviously they've just announced that they've got a load of Marauder stuff coming. God only knows what they'll actually do. For me personally, with Old World right now, I don't know. I don't really have any expectations or particular kind of aspirations in terms of what they could reveal. You got anything on the Old World side of things that would get you super excited, or you just kind of take it or leave it at this stage?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do Kislev, because obviously Cafe and Kislev were the two that they teased very early on before the game was ever a thing, like years before. So if that was a new faction coming, I wouldn't be surprised. That'd be cool, I guess. Personally, I'd love it if they gave some love and support to the Legends factions, like, Chaos Dwarves, for example. And they, even if they're not like supporting them from a miniatures point of view, but we're going, here's a Arcane Journal with some rules in or something like that, or just updated the rules to be a bit more in line with everything else, I think that would be appreciated. But yeah, for whatever reason, maybe they won't at all touch them. I mean, I'm not playing it at the moment. I have aspirations to do it, so yeah, I can't really comment on what I would like to see, because currently what I would like to see is just, my own models playing a boring old game from the core rulebook. I don't need anything else to wow me at this stage. No, but, new models is always cool to see.
Oh, yeah, totally, man. Otherwise I sort of draw a blank. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of other systems and things coming down the pipeline, but nothing really stands out to me. I mean, I imagine they'll give us something for Kill Team, because they will. I imagine they'll give us something for Necromunda, but no ideas what it is. Blood Bowl is obviously now already gone up for pre-order, so they'll probably give us a team for Blood Bowl and go, look, everybody, a new team. And that'll be nice, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, that's it, really. That's my general vibe on the reveals, I feel. Unless there was anything you could wild card it, Phil. Is there anything you really want to, like, a bolt from the blue? Do you want to see a reprint of Dreadfleet? There you go. Wouldn't that be something? Oh my God, they brought it back.
Well, speaking of that, they, in the latest Warhammer preview, the weekly ones that they do, they mention Battlefleet Gothic, and then and then I go, transmission cut off. Oh, that's not what we meant to say, and everyone's losing their mind that might be something they would do, and it's like, possibly, but it just feels like a bit of a troll post, and it's not going to lead to anything. Could I see them doing it as another system to tie into their heresy sort of storyline? So, you've got Legions Imperialis, you've got, mainline heresy, and then you've also got Battlefleet Gothic set in heresy, because that's obviously quite straightforward to do, because the miniatures would all look the same. Totally plausible. Great from a campaign story point of view, but ultimately feels a lot more. It's a lot less interesting when it's just Imperials versus Imperials. The proper chaosy battle barges are really cool, and the Imperial Navy being distinct from Space Marines is really cool, and Tyranids in space is really cool. So yeah, could they do that? Could they actually just say, if they were to do a reprint of something, that would be kind of exciting.
Yeah.
In a way, there's some games I would like them to reprint but not touch, like More Time I think would be a great one to do for like an anniversary edition. It's like, don't update the game, don't change it, just reprint it so people can get hold of it and do a made to order on the old sculpts.
Yeah, man.
That would sell like hotcakes, and that's zero effort on their part other than having to make new molds and, find the designs, the original designs, I guess, and scan them in or something.
Well, that's about it, because they still sell the Night Runners for Skaven today, which is, one half of that box is the... Yeah, God, oh my God, if they did a reprint, that is a thing, man. Oh God, if GW did made to order classic card terrain sets, oh my God, that would be something. Like that, that's my...
Quite a lot of those are quite valuable. So I could imagine, weirdly, yeah, because everything's sort of gone back to plastic now, nothing's metal. Those things are almost more viable than what they would have been when they were a mixture of metal and plastic. Or what we've seen loads of people do, like recreations of those old things, but in plastic. So, the old bunkers and things like that have the vibe of those old miniatures, old terrain pieces, but, be done in modern plastic. That'd be cool. Imagine getting a little spiky cactus in plastic.
Oh, yes.
That would be... People would buy that because of, nostalgia, I guess, and modern people would buy it because it probably still looks cool.
Yeah, God, the old Imperial battle bunker in glorious cardboard. Oh, that would be a thing to get. And that's after, obviously, all my grumbles that I've made about all the really generic-looking L-shaped terrain that everybody uses. God, actually, Phil, the other week when we went up to Warhammer World for the Age of Sigmar doubles, when we were up there doing practice games on the Friday, people had legitimately turned up to Warhammer World and put down...
With their own terrain.
With their own MDF awful, tournament terrain. I was just like, what is going on here?
I had seen that last time I was there because I don't think they put... Because I think they keep their L-shaped terrain for the tournaments, for the events, so they don't just have it out. They've got the old school generic sort of fun and interesting terrain that is less practical. And last time we were up there for the 40k event, I saw someone do that, and I was just a bit like, looks dreadful. I'm surprised Games Workshop even allows it, to be honest. But maybe they know that, there's a market for it. If I can grumble slightly about the event I went to on the weekend.
Please, tell us.
The Warhammer World Throne of Skulls, which was a doubles... presumably casual, but didn't feel very casual. But all the tables had L-shaped generic ruins as per the, Games Workshop official tournament packs. Most of them had very similar looking mats. I think I played on 3 different tables that had the same boarding action style mats down on it. And it felt like the terrain layout was exactly the same on every single table I was on. Now, I don't know that for sure, for 100%, but it felt like it. And it felt like a lot of the objectives were placed in pretty much identical places, regardless of the, the deployment zones. So basically, I played 5 very similar looking tables across the weekend, and I found that just utterly dull. It was really unfun to play on. Impractical, yeah, sure, but then in a way, half the time it wasn't, because it's like, if I want to sit on this objective, I have to be in the middle of the board where their entire army can just shoot at me, and there's zero cover because it's, that's where it's been positioned, and that basically is how every single game went. It's like, I stand on the middle objective and I'm going to get shot at. Great. So obviously I had to change my tactics every so often. But yeah, the fact that there was no interesting or unique terrain, historically it used to be the very top tables had VL shapes and the, standard ruin setup. Everything else had slight variations on it, so they still made it look similar. But sometimes it was like the old sort of plastic ruin sets, or it was Sector Mechanicus, but just positioned in the same place as where a ruin might go. Things like this, whereas this was all sort of L shapes, and they had actually boarded up all the ground floor windows and stuff like that, so it was all line of sight blocking when you're in it as well. Yeah, I just found it really uninspiring and a bit of a shame, especially when it was ultimately meant to be a casual event in my mind, because it was like Throne of Skulls, which is their brand for casual events. It was a doubles event. And it had a very competitive atmosphere, both within the terrain layouts and the other opponents, bar like one game, I would say. It was all very competitive.
I mean, we had a similar experience in terms of the way the layouts and everything worked when we went there earlier in the year and played in the doubles. That isn't different from what you and I got earlier in the year, right? Like, essentially, for better or ill, the community has spoken, and the majority of individuals who are to be heard have essentially aligned around standardization and formalization of layouts, because it's an important integral part of the tabletop gameplay experience to the people who go to events with the title of tournament, whether they are intended to be a casual tournament or a super duper competitive tournament. They're all kind of cut from the same cloth, right? People who play Warhammer at 40,000 at events, they like that standardization. Now, I personally am in alignment with yourself, although, again, I always consistently assert that the problem is with the Warhammer 40,000 rules in 10th edition is the game really, really struggles to be played without, these kind of terrain stipulations. So I understand why people lean into that and why they want it. I just think it's a shame, right? Because when you go to the AOS events, the terrain is really quite beautiful, but terrain doesn't really play the same function that it does in 40k.
No, because it's less shooty. Although there are some shooty armies in the game.
Oh, very much so. But what I was going to say is the thing is though, is still people who play AOS are still rigidly utilizing the layouts as per the book. No one would turn up to a gaming table in AOS and be like, oh, we're not using the terrain layouts as they are in the battle plans. Like, everyone uses the layouts in the battle plans because that's the point. The battle plans are built with terrain and objectives all synergized.
But there's everyone's like, which one's the place of power, for example?
Yeah.
Because the place of power actually does something.
Yes.
Now, I remember the days of 6th and 7th edition, and I feel like it was in 8th edition as well, where you had mysterious terrain in 40k.
Yeah.
Once you go up to the terrain, you roll a dice to see what the terrain does. It could be a booby trap and explode, or it could be, it gave you the ability to have Skyfire and shoot at planes a lot easier, or it could give you an invulnerable save. It could do all sorts. Now, doing that for every single terrain piece, I thought was madness. But, if you could limit it to just a select few bits of terrain, that would be much more manageable. And it invariably was one of those rules where you just agreed with your opponent, let's ignore that, and no one played it. Because it, in a tournament setting, is just too much bookkeeping, basically, to try and remember in the sort of short period of time that you've actually got. But it was interesting, and it had like an interesting effect on the game. And the place of power is like a good, happy medium for that in AOS, where it's like, it's one thing. It tends to be, there's only 2 on the table, normally close to your deployment zones, and it allows you to maybe cast an extra spell or cast spells a bit easier, but then there's also the risk that it blows up in your face. So it can have like a meaningful impact on the game.
Yeah. No, big time. I think that's the thing. I think, the problem is, mate, is like, the way I look at it now is I just sort of accept 40k for what it is. I think if you're looking for a fun thematic weekend of gaming where you're going to be getting cool, interesting tables, I think you just have to go to their narrative events now. I think that's the only place that facilitates that style of gameplay anymore. I think ultimately anything outside of grand narrative, which is so aggressively promoted, advertised as that, anything other than that is basically, it's
which is effectively like one event a year at Warhammer World.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So shout out to the guys I played in the very last game. They were lovely chaps. Me and Richard had decided to grudge match them because they had a beautiful army, which was a storm. Supremacy suit, the Forge World one, the Tau Supremacy suit, the big Titan, and a Hierophant for the Tyranids, plus a couple of extra little gribblies each side. And that was like their army. And we'd seen that and we'd been like, oh, that'd be great to play against. And then got to the 4th game and Richard just went up and asked the judges if we could be paired up against them. The guys agreed because Richard had the big Marauder Destroyer and the Vulture, so our army looked quite cool in terms of similar big things on the table. And we had a really epic, like, casual game attempting to try and take down these big things on the tabletop, which was mad. Like the railgun on that supremacy suit does 16 damage per shot, and it does several of those shots, and it literally one-shotted the Marauder Destroyer out the sky. But then my Sky Captain, as I'm calling him, the captain on Jetbike, managed to, throughout the course of the game, slay the Supremacy Suit in combat, and then shortly afterwards slay the Hierophant in combat. Admittedly, everyone else had done some work to knock them both down in wounds at that point. But yeah, it just was like a really epic, fun game. They were not at all really even trying to do the secondaries because their army wasn't built such. So it just felt a bit more old school, casual fun. And I was a bit like, I kind of wish more people went to that event with that sort of attitude in mind and list building. Whereas our fourth game, where at that point we had won one game and lost 2 games, we played a very competitive, like, tailored list that was very strong. Well, to us it felt quite strong, and that was being Swiss paired to a team that had lost 3 times, or 2 times, and 4, game 4. So they'd have lost 3 games and won 1, because that's where we were, basically.
Yeah.
I would not expect to see that far down the rankings, basically. So that was sort of quite surprising. That showed you how competitive I would say that event was. Which in a way was a bit of a shame. And obviously we won our last game against those guys. That was quite fun. I think we placed, it was something like 40 something out of 70 something. So at the halfway point, we got, I think, 1 favourite game vote and 3 favourite army votes, I think. That was it. And then one of our games, we played against the guys that came second.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, there was that. I mean, it was an interesting event. It felt less casual than normal doubles events. And I felt like over the years, they've gotten less casual. But there was always like an element of sort of self-censorship in terms of like the list you would take, because you'd always be like, let's try and take something a bit fun, a bit creative and novel.
I always sort of say it with, I feel like the appropriate level of, I mean, I'm always going to say I feel like it's the appropriate level, but I feel like it is the appropriate level of respect, I suppose, when it comes to this stuff, which is that, I just think, 40k has just gone that way. Like, people like to play it in that way when they're going to events and playing it at tournaments. And I think it's really hard to separate it. Like, I just don't think the kind of people who collect, build, paint the majority of, big 2,000 point 40k armies that they can run at events are interested in anything other than winning. And I don't begrudge them for that. I think that's fair enough. I just think I think unfortunately, if you're looking for fun casual, I think you need to look elsewhere. I think 40k is I don't think 40k really majoritively facilitates it outside of playing with friends. Yeah,
I think the 40k winning is fun.
Yes.
That's how it works. And if you're not winning, it's, not fun.
Yeah.
To an extent, this is a very broad statement, but I think when you're, not to say when you're getting smashed, but when you're unable to have a chance at winning, it can be quite unfun in certain environments, depending on who you're playing against, and also your own attitude as well going into it. But when it's a bit of an uphill struggle, it definitely airs on the less fun side. And, I think to an extent that's also expectations versus reality, right? In terms of if you go to an event expecting it to be quite casual and then it isn't, that's a shame. But that's, Games Workshop can't police it, right? They can't enforce a casual environment. They can advertise an event as such, and it's down to people to see that advertisement and respond to it as such. But, if someone goes to a casual event and then takes a tournament winning list, no one can stop them. And that will always be there to an extent. And you do expect that at the top tables, but you sort of expect everyone else to be a bit more chill and a bit more having fun. But, that's not always the case.
Yeah, no, agreed, mate. It certainly isn't. But, I just don't know what you do about it anymore. I think the thing is you just have to sort of accept it for what it is. If you're going to go to Warhammer World and play a 40k event that isn't the grand narrative, and even then probably people at the grand narrative were still bringing armies that were designed to destroy one another.
Thematic. Well, we also live in the world, right, where anything can be thematic, and I sort of feel like, I'm taking an army of dreadnoughts. It could be highly competitive, but technically in some weird margins of a Black Library rulebook is actually thematic, all the March of the Ancients, that's thematic. It's like, no, it's not. And it's not. You're taking it because you think it's good.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I feel like, dress up competitive lists under the guise and the veneer of some sort of theme, sadly.
I think that's the weird thing, though, as well, though, right? When it comes to 40k in the general sense now, though, the armies are so massive, it's so difficult to even actually insert themes into your armies anymore. Because I find that, I was chatting to my mate Craig the other day, who was playing with his Space Wolf army, and his theme for his army was, I've gone Thunderwolves. So he had 15 Thunderwolves in his army, which, as I understood it, was pretty close to the maximum amount of Thunderwolves he could take. I think the maximum amount he could take is 18, because I think you could take 3 units of 6. But as it was, he'd taken 2 units of 6 and 1 unit of 3. So 15 Thunderwolves was his, quote, theme. But in addition to his theme of the army, he also had a unit of Intercessors, a Gladiator Lancer, a Iron Priest, a Scout Squad, a 10-man unit of Terminators led by Logan Grimnar, a 20-man unit of Bloodclaws led by Ragnar Blackbane, to which you kind of go, well, it's a Space Wolf army then, isn't it? Because, yes, you've got slightly more, maybe a couple more Thunderwolf cavalry than most, but because of how your army has to be built, there's no way that you can really inject themes into anything anymore. I was looking at it if you're a Space Marine player and you think, I'm going to do a tank army, because that's cool, isn't it? I'm going to do a tank army. You can obviously do it, but in the old days, a tank army would be 6 tanks. You'd be oh, here's my tank army. It's 6 or 7 variants of Predator, Whirlwind, Vindicator, and a tank commander, say, Kronos. You might be oh, here's Sergeant Kronos, and here's a load of tanks. And that would be your full army, right? 6 or 7 tanks. These days you go, oh, I'll have 9 gladiators. So all 3 variants of gladiator done 3 times over. The maximum amount of gladiators I can have. How many points is all of that? And it's it's maybe 1,200, maybe 1,100. You're oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think doubles is actually quite a good size because it's 1,000 points for doing themed things. So there was one army that I think on the cabinet that was White Scar jet bikes, and then the other side was all Death Riders. And there was quite a few where it was just, guard was basically all Death Riders, and I was like, oh, that's a cool theme, that works, and 1,000 points you can do it. And then it's when we talked about the Terminator box set, it's that basically is a themed army.
Oh yeah,
feels quite strong. Again, it's that thing of technically it's a theme, but it feels like it's just an abuse of the fact that the game system has opened up to allow you to take whatever you want. Whereas before there might be a bit more rigidity in your list building. It's basically SKU lists, right? Theming is often just SKU lists, which is great for theming, but maybe unfun for your opponent if you've I love a tank army, and I know lots of people who have rolled their eyes at me when I've rocked up to a table with all tanks, because they're like, oh, this just feels like quite an uphill battle for me. It invariably isn't, because it's guard, but, sometimes it is. Always a bit of a challenge, because you've got a lot of stuff that are just like, oh, I'm wounding on 6s.
Yeah.
And that's not great for them, but it's like, but it is a theme, and in my defense, that is much more of a theme than some of the other stuff we see.
Yeah, because I don't know, it's just funny when you look at like older editions, because the armies were just smaller, you could get really creatively invested in the idea of a theme, and that I felt kind of gave you a sense of opportunity or a sense of uniqueness. Not everyone was doing cool, interesting themes like what you might have conceived, so you could have leaned into certain archetypes and built your armies around that, and the game sort of seemed to have means and ways of rewarding it. And although now technically anything is possible, like you could still do a tank army in Marines today, you could do a Dreadnought army, but I mean I've written a Dreadnought army list where I've gone like 3 Redemptors, 3 Brutalis, and 3 Ballistas. But that's not anywhere close to 2,000 points.
No, you'd have to take the old style Dreadnoughts or Legends Contemptors or something.
Yeah, or go Blood Angels and take like...
or it'd have to be Space Wolves and take, Bjorn and stuff like that. Yeah. So there are potentially ways, but not particularly easy at the current points. Because there was a guy that you would like, Dan. It was in our first game. It was Votan Votan and Eldari. And their team name was Side by Side. What about being side by side with a friend? The Lord of the Rings reference between the elf and the dwarf.
Yes.
But the Eldari character had like pretty much one of all the sort of main units, like Striking Scorpions, Banshees, and so forth, and then had each one of the corresponding Phoenix Lords to go with it, which was very cool. But it was also like, oh, how much have you got in your list? Because it was like, I think it was either 4. I think it must have been 4 Exarchs or Phoenix Lords, right? Exarchs is just for squad leader. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Phoenix Lords. I think it must have been 4 plus 4 of the units. Maybe it was 5, and it was just like, this feels like. Oh, plus a transport as well, and it just felt like this is a lot of stuff for 1,000 points. Yeah.
I mean, it is a lot of stuff.
It had quite a cool theme to it. Yeah.
No, it does sound good. I mean, that is the thing that I find consistently. It's just a lot of stuff you need these days, which is crazy. And I think the thing is, it's hard to sort of inject themes or ideas into armies because of the amount of stuff you need. It's just a bit sort of like. And I do think that has a negative impact on people's desire to do fun hobby projects and to get expressive with it. Because, I mean, I was going back and looking at old editions like you do and building army lists in those older games, and it's really quite refreshing when you're like, oh, I could come up with a list and it's like this, and it's like, oh, isn't this fun? But anyway, I digress. Cool, man. Well, look, I mean, that'll do. I don't know whether I would classify that as an episode or not. It was just us rambling. So if you're happy, Phil, I'll just put it out as a sort of weird...
Yes, no. Do as an episode. It's Warhammer reveals predictions.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was very well put together, though. I just feel like it was just... It was a bit all over the place.
We're never well put together, Dan.
That's not
that
true.
Is our
I think
charm.
we tend to do better than that. That was a bit... And my head wasn't quite rightly in it either. Like, I feel like I've been a bit of a flipping mess during this one just because of my rubbish news. So, I don't know. Whatever you want, mate. I'll do it. I'll do it the way you want it. But I'm good.
Yeah. 124 mini episode.
124.
Done.
Or 224. Anyway, there we go.
Oh yeah.
Done now. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.